Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the West End Imps show. We're coming to you the day after we recorded another win on the road, an impressive 1-0 win at Oakwell against Barnsley. But I am joined, as always, with Mr. Conrath. Chris, how you doing?
Good evening, mate. Everyone, not always joined by me because obviously you flew solo at the weekend, so fair play for that.
Yeah, that was a struggle, and if you did see that video, it's much appreciated. It was hard work talking about that game for more than 5 minutes, really. So last night, then, Chris, going into the game at Barnsley, obviously a team that had just come down from the Championship, probably was one where we were hoping for a point, probably anticipating a defeat. Would that be fair to say?
Yeah, I was anticipating a draw. I thought we could go and get something from the game. Yeah, I felt confident that we'd get something. Didn't necessarily think maybe a win, but certainly felt that we could pick up a point on the road there. Yeah.
And then obviously just after we were on the way there, weren't we? Because obviously we had the really short commute, and the team came out whilst we was in the car. Just the one change for Mark Kennedy as Joe Walsh came into the side ahead of Adam Jackson. A change that I was happy to see with Walsh. Obviously brings a lot of balance to the back four, meaning that we can have a left-footed defender down the left side, and Regan, who's naturally right-footed, could slot back into the middle, and Paulie O'Connor, who's probably the slowest of the lot, could play centrally. Apart from that, the team was as expected, wasn't it, really, mate?
Yeah, I think it was. I mean, that Jackson-Walsh sort of swap seems to be the only one that's under consideration at the moment. For me, the rest of the team picks itself at the moment. You know, been on a great run with just one or two changes. So yeah, I think you're right about that point. I think Paul's brilliant wherever he's playing, but I think he looks just even next level better when he's on that right side rather than the left. And I thought for me it was O'Connor's best game last night. I thought he was outstanding in the centre of that three. Gives him a little protection because you're right, he doesn't have a huge amount of pace. And Joe Walsh, when he's fit, is in that side. But it's a difficult one because Jackson's been playing brilliantly recently as well. So a good decision for the manager to have to make. But yeah, the rest of the team for me currently picks itself.
Yeah, and obviously you've got to factor in we've still got Lewis Montsma to fit into that equation. Also, Teddy Bishop into the midfield conversation as well. First sort of opening exchanges of the game, I think went pretty much how we expected. Barnsley, who were coming off a poor result away at Morecambe on the weekend, wanted to try and get a quick start and put that result out of their head. I thought they looked pretty good in possession in the first sort of 15, 20 minutes. To be fair, they were pinging it around. Benson in midfield. Herbie Kane is someone who we've seen before at Oxford. I thought Josh Martin was pretty good at running at Sean Rowan as well, and Norwood is always pretty lively. But the first 20 minutes we were not under the cosh because they didn't exactly create any, really good opportunities, and they weren't caving us apart. But Barnsley definitely had the better of the first 10, 15 minutes. Would that be fair?
100%, yeah. I mean, you've said everything now. I don't think I've got a great deal more to add. Possession, they had it, but they had it pretty much for most of the game. But it looks like we're happy to let teams do that because we're restricting them to very, very few chances. I don't think Barnsley had a really clear-cut chance last night. And I think that, that just seemed to be just sit back, restrict them to chances, and then hit them on the break, which we did a couple of times in the first half. So yeah, 15, 20 minutes, it was just as you were. And then I think that led up to the first chance, I think, if I remember timelines right, for Jack Diamond, really, which was the first chance of the game.
And it was similar to Ipswich, Chris. Sorry to interrupt you, but they had all the possession, but we sort of, well, not Ipswich, Sheffield Wednesday, sorry. They had a lot of the possession, but we had the better of the chances. That was the case again in the first half, wasn't it? Because, we definitely, Jack Diamond probably, I said this against Ipswich in the review there, that if that was Jack Diamond, maybe just after the Bristol Rovers game, I think he probably scores that. Just a scuffed effort off the post, but real good signs in the first 25 minutes that we were able to hit on the counter.
Yeah, and that's how we've been set up, isn't it? I think with this sort of shift in the formation over the last few games, 4 or 5 games. Yeah, I think the diamond chance was a great chance, and you've got to go back to the throw from Rushworth. I mean, that was just ridiculous throw. It lands at his feet. Really, really clever, quick thinking, and that's what I think Rushworth does a lot of. He'll get the ball in the box, and then he's rushing out to the edge of his 18-yard box to see, can I get someone going quick on the counter? I think it looked good, didn't it, for me? I just didn't feel threatened. I didn't feel like they were going to score. Despite the possession they had, they weren't breaking us down, and you could sense that frustration was coming. And obviously then just before half-time, what a time to score.
Yeah, I think as we were listening on the way home to Gav Gordon on the radio, I think he put it really well that once we had frustrated Barnsley and stopped them from playing the way they wanted to play, we then were able to grow into the game. And I think that was sort of obvious as the half grew on. And obviously, like you mentioned, what I think I've seen the highlights, obviously, and I remember the goal well. What I think isn't shown on the highlights is the really good way that we get out of the Barnsley press in our left corner flag. So I think it's Sean Rowan, Matty Virtue and Joe Walsh play a lovely triangle around the Barnsley midfield and forwards, allowing Jack Diamond to get the space to run at the wing back and play a sensational ball into Danny Mandroyu. And at the moment, that's the man that you want the opportunity to come to if you're trying to win 1-0 away from home somewhere where you probably shouldn't, because the man's composed, he's clinical. That's 3-3 for him now. And that will be doing Danny the world of good, won't it?
Absolutely, yeah. Really pleased that he scored again. Another lovely goal. Like you say, the build-up's great. And I think credit to Barnsley, that high press was pretty impressive. They did it well. But equally, we managed to work our way out of it well. And that's when you get those opportunities on the break. You draw in the opposition. They get higher and higher up the pitch as they seek an opening or a goal. And then, bang, 30 seconds later, we're 1-up. Great build up to the goal. We're seeing quite a bit actually with the goals that we've been scoring. The Sheffield Wednesday goal last night. There's some really clever patterns of play that are giving us that space, that are creating that space for the sort of front three, if you like, to go on and do what they do.
Yeah, really composed finish by Danny as well. Really, really impressive. Then half time sort of rolled around. Not particularly a lot happened after half time. I think similar to the Ipswich game, actually, I'll draw a parallel here where we sort of in the Ipswich game came out of after half time like with an absolute rocket in us, and we sort of dominated the opening exchanges of the second half. And I think to an extent we did that yesterday also. I think we came out the traps really quickly and looked to sort of get a second and kill the game off. But I was really impressed with how we reacted straight after the interval, weren't you?
Yeah, very much so. Yeah, we really came out and looked like we were hungry for a second. Maybe there was a feeling that we might need a second as the game sort of drew on. But yeah, for me, really good. It's just nice that they felt that they, could also go for that sort of attacking dimension as well as we've been defending. And we had, we had a few chances, didn't we? Nothing particularly clear cut, but opportunities when we were getting in and around the box. I think there was a couple of times, well, certainly once when Ben House got down into the box towards the byline, closed in on goal and tried to sort of pull it back, and it didn't quite work out. So there was lots of occasions I felt where it was almost the perfect ball. And, that team's getting better and better. And soon those almost balls are going to become the perfect ball more and more as we see it. So.
Yeah. Once the lads have been, playing together a bit longer, you anticipate that those sort of chances are going to go in the back of the net. So obviously Michael Duff then threw everything at it. Barnsley went longer. They brought on some good players. Aitchison was one that came on. They brought on another lad that the name escapes me of at the moment that was really good in the league last season. I remember him as soon as we stopped pressing, as soon as we come off record. But we forced Michael Duff to go long, and even the substitutions that Mark Kennedy brought on. Garrick worked really hard. Charles Vernon looked to really add a little bit of quality in the final third, and then Lasse Sorensen, who you're bringing somebody on for legs, and I don't think there's anybody better in the current squad to bring on to try and keep the midfield battle won. So I think both managers were very positive with their substitutions, but probably Mark got it just a bit more spot on because of he recognised what we needed at that time, and obviously the players that came on did the jobs.
100%, yeah. We knew at some point Barnsley were going to have to really go long and force it and look for those sort of flick-ons and not. And they've got good players up there. Norwood's no slouch in the air. But I think it was tactically spot on last night. Couldn't fault it. And then I think, Vernon actually looked really lively when he came on. And that's sort of, I guess there's probably a few doubts over him because he's not getting a lot of game time. And when he is getting it, he's not really kind of pushing himself and pressing for that opportunity or more opportunities. But last night I thought he was good. He gave us an option, and we needed that in that sort of that outlet of someone with a bit of pace and a bit of trickery who would be able to sort of run it down. But yeah, I just think it was a really well managed game from everyone, and yeah, I didn't feel at any point genuinely, not just being rose tinted Lincoln City glasses, but I didn't genuinely feel that they were going to score.
Yeah, and obviously Vernon slipped that ball into Ben House, didn't he, towards the end, where House has probably missed it by a couple of inches. But but that just shows you how Ben House is stepping up to the level.
He was fantastic last night, Ben House, and a lot of that work goes unnoticed. And Kennedy drew his, in his post-match, drew attention to it. His work rate last night and his defensive discipline last night was just unbelievable. 92nd minute or whatever, and he's back tackling and sliding in, and it was that togetherness and that willingness and desire to fight for each other, which we were lacking last season, and that's making the difference for me in a lot of ways.
And you perfectly segued me on here, Chris, to man of the match. Thank you very much for your ability to know exactly what I was thinking, which you do half the time, to be fair. Man of the match, and for me, you could give it to almost anybody. I'm interested to hear yours first. I mean, I might be a bit predictable in mine, given where I've played football before. But inform me of where you're going to go for man of the match.
Well, we talked about this on the way back, and I had two in my head, and one of them you laughed off.
I did,
which was TJ. I thought he had a great game. I know it could look like he's running in treacle a lot of the time, or that he's kind of carrying weights, but I think he's essentially. I think it's just a very new position, and he's almost playing as a right winger. And maybe the instruction or the tactics isn't that he has to bust a gut to get back, because we have got cover. Virtue and Sanders filling in those positions really well when Sean and TJ go bombing forward, and because the back three are so wide, you've got Poole almost on the right back position and Walsh in the left back position and O'Connor in the middle. I think it just gives them that security that I'll get back, but I don't have to bust a gut to get back. Or, that's just me sort of hypothesizing a little bit, but that's how it felt a little bit, because if you're a lazy footballer, you're not getting picked. And I don't think TJ's a lazy footballer. But going back to the original question of man match, my actual man of the match for me is O'Connor. I thought he was brilliant last night. He was picking up everything. He had a tough job against a couple of decent strikers, and I just thought it was his best performance that I've seen him in this season. He was winning every header. He was strong. He was blocking, and there's a real understanding in that back three, back five. And I just thought he just led that line really well, and really impressed with O'Connor. But it could have been anyone.
Yeah, ultimately, I will agree with you. I think O'Connor was man of the match by some distance. But I do want to give, like you've given plaudits to TJ, I wanted to give plaudits to Carl Rushworth. Obviously made the mistake for the goal against Wednesday, but my God, did he make up for it on Tuesday night? Really commanding, excellent distribution, and I thought for a young man, he really stood up and was counted for. Did really well last night.
Yeah, definitely. And I think the measure of someone is, we all make mistakes. The measure is how you respond and bounce back from that mistake. And he's shown that that's not going to have affected him. Whereas other young keepers, it might have affected them. It might have kick their confidence. He was so commanding last night, wasn't he? There was that bit towards the end where there was like a couple of punches and then a catch all in really quick succession. Yeah, fair shout. He's an outstanding keeper.
Yeah, I think he's one that I might have a cry about when he goes back to Brighton at the end of the season. Right, quickly then, Chris, just before we do end on it, and I say quickly because I know how we can talk football for hours on end. Obviously, we've picked up 8 points from, I think it's Bolton, Charlton, Ipswich, Wednesday and Barnsley, which is a really impressive return, isn't it? I think we sort of said, I know we had conversations about how many points we'd expect from those sort of 5 or 6 games. We've come out with 8. A really good tally. In 30 seconds, how would you summarise the last month or so for Lincoln City?
Resilient, impressive, committed, togetherness. They're the kind of words that immediately come to mind. If I look at those games, I probably would have thought we'd get 3 points out of them. Draws, I felt Charlton, Barnsley, and then defeats. I didn't expect us to get anything out of Sheffield Wednesday or Ipswich. So yeah, I think the Bolton game as well, because you've included that in that 5. So yeah, I would look on paper at that and think we might get a few points with a couple of, with a draw. I felt possibly, Charlton and Barnsley were the ones I looked at thinking they're the ones we might pick up points. 8 points is outstanding from those games. And on paper, we have had a very difficult start. We've played a lot of the big teams that are going to be up there at the end of the season, and we haven't been, apart from the Peterborough game, we haven't been shamed. But Peterborough was a long time ago. That team's changed and evolved so much since that game that now I suspect it would be a very different game and a very different result, because I don't think we'd be exposed as much.
Yeah, second hardest start.
So apologies.
Second hardest start statistically. We've played 9 of the top 10, with the only one we've not played being Plymouth Argyle. So, and that comes in a matter of weeks anyway. So, yes, that does wrap up everything for this week's edition of the West End Imps. So we will be back for you on Sunday, sometime on Sunday, whenever I can get it all uploaded. I will be out on Saturday night, so I might be hungover on Sunday morning, just a warning. After Port Vale, so that should be a good video and a good day out. Anything else to add, Chris, quickly?
No, not at the moment. We'll see you at the Vale, and we won't be doing Sunday morning because I'm flying to Spain, mate. So we'll be doing it in the afternoon.
Oh, thank God! Oh, thank God for that. I'm going to get a lie in. Yes, massively appreciate it, Chris, as always, for coming on and expressing your views. Thank you for watching. Please make sure that you do like, comment, and subscribe, as we are trying to reach 1,000 subscribers as quickly as we can, and all of your support is massively appreciated to not just me and Chris, but everyone else on the Stacey West podcast team. So for now, Chris, up the Imps.
Up the Imps. See you Saturday.